Welcome to the PJ Hoop Podcast. I'm your host, PJ, and if this is your very first time checking out my podcast, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to check it out. I promise you won't be disappointed. This is a basketball podcast, so on my podcast, I like to cover the NBA, college, high school, and international basketball. I also, before I get started here, I just want to take a moment and thank all my listeners out there, everybody that I've had engagement with on social media, in direct messages, and even over text messages. I just want to take the time and just thank you guys for really supporting me and this channel. We're towards the end of it, which is crazy. We're towards the end of almost the first year of my podcast, and I really hope that you guys have enjoyed the content that I've put out. I've really enjoyed the feedback I've received, and I promise you guys next year, we're going to the next level. I got something I'm kind of cooking in the background right now that at a later date I will release to you guys. But yeah, we're going to the next level next year. I'm ready. I'm ready to do it with you guys. But anyways, I want to give you guys the 4 segments that I go over week in and week out. This is your first time checking out my podcast. First segment being a segment I like to call PJ's Echelon. Now in PJ's Echelon, essentially, it's my power rankings. Understand that it's a progressive list because I'm a progressive man. I am not a perfect man. And I'll give you guys the parameters that I like to use in a little bit. Another segment is a segment I like to call What's New. Now in What's New, I'm giving you guys some type of NBA news, some type of NBA statistical history that was made over this last week, or it could just be me ranting. Today, we're going to pick up kind of where we left off last week. So last week, the last 2 weeks, we've been going over our lottery teams and kind of just, if you've never checked out none of my season preview episodes, I would highly recommend checking them out. Not just because it's my podcast, but because I have some really good information in there about all 30 teams. I went through all 30 teams and did like a season preview. It's organized by division. I'll leave a link up in the corner for you guys. But anyways, very similarly to those I've been doing with the lottery teams the last 2 weeks. This week, the next 3 teams we're picking up on is the Toronto Raptors, the San Antonio Spurs, and the Portland Trail Blazers. And within that, I'm going to be talking about draft fits that I think just a few players that I think are good fits for these teams. I'm also going to talk about their contract situation, and then also we're going to review some of their rookie/sophomores, how they've been coming along and how they've been doing this year. So that's what's new for today. My next segment that I like to cover is a segment I like to call Games of the Week. Now, in Games of the Week, I'm covering games of some type of significance, games that I really enjoyed watching, or games that I'm looking forward to that week. We're towards the end of the season, so right now, all we're thinking about are games that we're looking forward to for the next week. Obviously, the NBA season closes on Sunday, so these next couple days, obviously, my list is going to be a lot shorter than it normally is, so that's Games of the Week. And then my last segment is a segment I like to call In the Lab. Now, in the Lab, I'm talking about today's NBA rookies. I'm talking about high school, college, and international basketball. Today, in the Lab, we're going to be picking up and checking in on some of our March Madness prospects. We're going to check in on some of them, and then also we're going to get ready for the Nike Hoop Summit that takes place tomorrow. Now, before I dive in on our normal segments, I just want to take this time and just, because I want you guys to go on this journey with me, in essence. I've always told you guys, whatever's in my mind, basketball-wise, I spit out on this camera to you guys and on this podcast. So, after the whole Mike Malone thing happened, I wouldn't say it was like a total shock, but it was a shock enough, where it made me kind of want to just step back and really just look at the geo side of the NBA world. So I just briefly want to go down a couple of teams with you guys and just really look at potential question marks or even just comments about each team. I'm not going to tell you guys each team, but I just want to throw some things at you guys. And like I said, some of these things we have answers to, some of these things we don't. But this just kind of put in a larger larger scope to you guys what's really going on in the NBA. I don't think people understand where we're kind of headed this offseason in the NBA. I think we really could be headed for massive change around the entire NBA, not just certain teams. So I just want to kind of go through a couple teams with you guys just really, really fast. And I just wrote down super one syllable, really, really short stuff about each, some of these teams. Okay, so I just want to go down it with you guys and just throw it at you guys if you don't already have it. Obviously, like I said, a lot of this stuff I've already thought about, and I'm not here to give you guys my full opinion. I'm just throwing these questions and thoughts and opinion and these thoughts at you guys right now. Okay, so we're going to do this really quick. Okay, we're going to start at the top. We're going to start with the Boston Celtics. Boston obviously has new ownership. What is that going to look like? What do they want to do? Because we all know usually when new ownership comes into a team, they usually want to shake some stuff up a little bit. Boston's going to have a fat tax bill. Players, almost all their major core guys our salaries are going to increase going into next year. You got Tatum's extension kicks in. You got Porzingis, Drew Holiday, Derek White, Peyton Pritchard, Jaylen Brown, and then even Sam Hauser. Like, all these guys' salaries are going to increase going into next year. What does the new ownership want to do in Boston? It's going to be interesting. Really, if they don't win the title this year, what could that spill over? Okay, so that's one team. Okay, we're just going to keep going down the list. I'm just going to go really fast. New Orleans. What if New Orleans gets the first pick? Do they keep Zion and pair him with Cooper Flag? I don't know how that would look. I personally wouldn't like that dynamic with those two players. So do you get off of Zion? Do you ship the number 1 pick? Like, what do you do there for New Orleans? Sacramento, what do they do with DeMar, Levine, and Sabonis? I know Sabonis has been very vocal about not wanting to be a part of a rebuild. So that's something to watch for. Obviously, Denver, they're going to have a new front office, a new head coach. Could a trade be incoming? Maybe there's a sense of stagnation by ownership around this team. What happens with Denver? Atlanta, what happens with Trae Young? Because they got some really good young players. Does Trae Young want to stay around for that? I think Trae Young only has, I believe, only 1 year left on his deal anyways. What happens with Trae Young? Utah, are they going to trade their vets? Jordan Clarkson, Colin Sexton. I know John Collins has a player option. What's going to happen with that? The Pacers, Miles Turner is going to be a free agent. Does he stay in Indiana? Phoenix with Bradley Beal and Kevin Durant. We'll see. Even maybe they decide to get rid of Devin Booker. Who knows? Maybe James Jones is out of there this summer. Who knows? Memphis, new head coach. Who is it going to be? Is Ja gone? I haven't seen not one person talk about Jaren Jackson Jr. This is literally about to be a contract year for him next year. Next year, his last year, and then he's a free agent. So what happens with Jaren Jackson? Portland, do they decide to extend Anthony Simons and DeAndre Ayton this summer? Chauncey Billups has a team option this summer. Does the team pick up his option, or do they drop it and they end up trying to go get Taylor Jenkins or Mike Malone? What do they do in Portland? Dallas with Kyrie, what's going to go on? They're going to extend Kyrie. What's going to happen there? The Spurs with Wemby's blood clot. What does that entail? Does Wemby come back? Does he come back as good as he was? Does he come back better? These are just things, The Bucks, is this Dame and Giannis's last dance next year? Dame got a player option next summer. But on a positive note, Dame did start basketball activities, I believe, yesterday. So he might be back early in the playoffs, hopefully. Fingers crossed there. But yeah, the Bucks. Could this be Giannis and Dame's last dance next year? Or could this be it right now, The Knicks, Mikal Bridges has 1 year left on his deal. Next year's his last year. What do they do there? Do they extend him? Do they try to trade him? Timberwolves, Julius Randle, Naz Reid, both have player options this summer. What happens there? Golden State, are they going to pay Kuminga? Because they got to decide if they want to pay Jonathan Kuminga or not. So those are just a couple things I wanted to just throw at you guys because, again, I have more that I want to say about all that stuff. But these are just things, again, I just want to throw at you guys because there's a lot going on around the NBA. LeBron, is next year LeBron's last year? I've been on the record. I said I thought next year was going to be his last year. I said that last offseason, I believe that, because All-Star Game's in LA next year. So what happens there? Does LeBron play 1 year, or does he end up signing an extension? Does he just say, okay, next year's my last year? And then that leaves the Lakers with a lot of cap space to, because obviously they're going to get somebody else in LA with Luka. Who is that going to be? Are we going to find that out this summer? Are we going to find out next summer? There's so many things going on with a lot of teams around the NBA. And I'm just excited for this offseason. So, we're going to get started with today's episode. I'm sorry, you guys. I just really want to throw some of that at you guys because there's a lot of micro things, that we see or that we're watching, But if you guys really stand back and realize wow, we're really going into a summer of potential chaos and massive change around this NBA. I don't think people really, and maybe people do understand it. Maybe they do. And if they don't, then great. I just gave you all that information. If you do, even better. We can talk more about it off stream, But yeah, so that's just stuff I wanted to write down and let you guys know. But let's start on today's episode. I want to give you guys my, we're going to just dive straight into it, actually. Let's just get straight to it. My first segment is PJ's Echelon. Now, and in PJ's Echelon, essentially, it's my power rankings. Understand that this is a progressive list because I am a progressive man. I am not a perfect man. The criteria that I like to use is I like to use the eye test, strength of schedule, statistically where the team sits, but then also the team's record as well. Now, I want you guys to know that this is going to be my last power rankings after this week. This is it. I want you guys to also understand, as I'm going through this power rankings, this does not necessarily mean who I think is going to win the title. This does not mean who I think the 10 who the 10 best like championship odds are. This is literally just the power rankings for this regular season week. That's all this is. Next week, we will go into our playoff predictions and whatnot. We'll do that next week. So stay tuned for that. But let's just dive straight into it. My first team on the chopping block, this team is 66-14, and that is the Oklahoma City Thunder. Oklahoma right now, they're third in offensive efficiency, they're first in defensive efficiency, and they're first in net rating. They average the fewest turnovers per game, while also averaging the most steals. I think people misunderstand Oklahoma City a little bit. I think their defense is really, really going to shine in the playoffs. I think their defense, the way they went about building their defense last summer, after what happened with them in the Dallas series, I think they're going to show up. I think their defense is going to be the leading charge for this team. And I don't hear nobody really talking about it as extensively as they should be, in my opinion. But since January 1st, they're 39. Since January 1st, they're 39-9, which is the best record in basketball. That's OKC. Number 2, this team is 59-21, and that is the Boston Celtics. Boston right now, they're second in offensive efficiency. They're fifth in defensive efficiency, and they're third in net rating. Since January 1st, they're 35-12. They've dealt with a lot of injuries as well. So I believe, obviously, I think the record would be better than that if they didn't deal with so many people being in and out of the lineup. They're fifth in the NBA in blocks at 5.5 a game. They're fifth in free throw percentage at 80%, which is going to be critical going into the playoffs. It's going to be important to make your free throws. Number 3, this team is 63-17, and that is the Cleveland Cavaliers. Cleveland, right now, they're first in offensive efficiency. They're 8th in defensive efficiency, and they're 2nd in net rating. They average the 3rd fewest turnovers per game at 13. They're first in points per game at 122. They're first in pick and roll frequency as well at 22%. In clutch times games, which the clutch is defined as the last 5 minutes of the game, with the game being within 5 points, they're 25-11 at 69%. Number 4, this team is 49-31, and that is the Los Angeles Lakers. LA right now, they're 10th in offensive efficiency, they're 16th in defensive efficiency, and they're 14th in net rating. They're 10th in opponents' field goal percentage, at 46%. They're 11th in opponents' three-point percentage at 35.5%. They have the second best home record in the West at 30-11. Number 5, this team is 50-27, and that is the Houston Rockets. Houston right now, they're 11th in offensive efficiency. They're 4th in defensive efficiency, and they're 4th in net rating. To me, Houston had really great wins over Golden State and over the Thunder this last week. I really loved, and I've been talking about him since my very, very first episode, my pre-draft episode. I've been a big fan of Reed Sheppard. But I call him, his nickname for me is the White Rocket. That's my guy, Reed Sheppard. He had a really good game against the Clippers. He had 20 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 steals. He shot 7 of 14 from the field and 6 for 10 from 3. Houston, come on. My Houston fans out there and any of my basketball fans that have been watching Reed Sheppard should be starting over Fred VanVleet. Number 6, this team is 50-30, and that is the New York Knicks. New York right now, they're 5th in offensive efficiency, they're 13th in defensive efficiency, and they're 8th in net rating. They're allowing the 5th best three-point percentage at 37%, which is, something just to be mindful of going into the playoffs. They're 4th in field goal percentage at 49%. And they're 8th in cut frequency. So people, players cutting without the ball, they're 8th in that. The frequency, the amount of times that they use that is about 7.5% of the time. Number 7, this team is 44-32, and that is the LA Clippers. LA right now, they're 16th in offensive efficiency. They're 3rd in defensive efficiency, and they're 5th in net rating. They're 7th in field goal percentage at 48%. They're also 7th in three-point percentage at 37%. They're 8th in opponents' field goal percentage at 46% and 5th in opponents' three-point percentage at 35%. Since the All-Star break, they're 4th in net rating. They've had a kind of a soft schedule, in my opinion, during that stretch, but they're still looking solid. The Clippers are no joke. Number 8. This team is 48-32, and that is the Denver Nuggets. Denver right now, they're 4th in offensive efficiency. They're 20th in defensive efficiency, and they're 9th in net rating. They're 5-1 in overtime games. Something that's really concerning is Jamal Murray's hamstring has been inflamed. That's nothing to mess around with. Is it time to reconstruct this team? And that is a question I'll, leave for you guys to answer, and we'll talk about it at later episodes. Number 9, this team is 47-33, and that is the Golden State Warriors. Golden State right now, they're 15th in offensive efficiency, they're 7th in defensive efficiency, and they're 10th in net rating. Since the All-Star break, they're 19-6. They're 2nd in net rating, and they're tied for having the 2nd best defensive rating also during that span. My question for you guys is, do you guys believe that Steph Curry at this point in his career can be the best player on a championship team? That's the question I'm gonna leave to you guys to answer. You guys let me know down in the comment section below. Number 10, this team is 45-31, and that is the Indiana Pacers. Indiana right now, they're 7th in offensive efficiency, they're 14th in defensive efficiency, and they're 13th in net rating. They got the 2nd best home record in the Eastern Conference at 29-10. They're on a 6-game winning streak. But I'm still the component with Indiana, and I'm going to probably continue to feel this way unless they end up getting some bona fide bucket getter superstar. I think Tyrese Halliburton needs to take 18 to 19 shots a game really for this team to go to that next level. I think he's way too passive. But yeah, so that's my opinion. So that's my power rankings. The teams that I have right outside of the top 10, I got Minnesota, the Bucks, the Grizzlies, and Detroit, in no specific order. But you guys let me know down below who's in your final top 10 going into the playoffs. And yeah, you guys let me know down in the comment section below. My next segment is a segment I like to call What's New. Now, What's New, I'm giving you guys some type of NBA news that may have happened, some type of NBA statistical history that was made over the last week, or it could just be me ranting about something. This week, we're going to pick up where we left off last week and check in on 3 more of our NBA lottery teams. The 3 teams today we're going over is going to be Toronto, Spurs, and the Blazers. The topics that we're going to talk about with each team, we're going to talk about draft fits. We're going to talk about these teams' contract situations. And then we're going to check in on some of their rookies/sophomores, all right? But keep in mind as I go through this, I am not using Cooper Flag for any of these teams. Because to me, that's just lazy. I think he would fit with any of these teams. So I just think that's lazy. So that's why I didn't use him for none of these teams. So just keep that as we go through each team, okay? So the first team on the chopping block, we're going to do the Toronto Raptors. Draft fits, in my opinion, for Toronto is, I think, Kamen Malawach of Duke, Derek Queen of Maryland, and then Thomas Soiber. If they fall late into the lottery, then Thomas Soiber would be somebody I would say. But the top 2, Malawach and then Derek Queen, are the 2 people I would say. I think Derek Queen, if Toronto decided that they wanted to use him as the offensive hub instead of Scotty Barnes, I think that could be a great thing. And then Malawach, obviously defensive prowess, I would like those. I think those are easy drafts. And then Thomas Soiber, to me, I'm a very big fan of Thomas Soiber. He might be one of my draft sleepers, depending if he decides to stay in the draft or come out. But to me, Thomas, it gives you the best of both worlds. He has some offensive skill, and he's a solid defensive big man, and he rebounds really, really well. But like I said, I wouldn't draft him early in the lottery, but if you're telling me you're like 13th or 12th, let's say 13 to 15 and the other 2 are gone, then I would take him if you're Toronto. So those are draft fits. Contract situation, Scotty Barnes' extension kicks in next year. You got Chris Boucher, Garrett Temple are free agents. Orlando Brown, AJ Lawson, and Cole Swider, they are restricted free agents. Rookie/sophomore review. I love what I've seen from Grady Dick this past year. More off the dribble scoring this year. I really liked what I've seen out of him. I just hope adding, having RJ Barrett, adding like Brandon Ingram and them, I just hope that doesn't take away from his offensive growth. But I love what I'm seeing out of Grady Dick. Jonathan Mugbo. He was actually one of my draft sleepers last year. I like him coming off the bench. You need energy guys coming off the bench. NBA season's really long. I like him coming off the bench. Jamal Shed. I liked him at Houston. Hasn't really done too much with Toronto, or at least I haven't really seen him do too much. So we'll see what happens there. Next team is the San Antonio Spurs. Draft fits, in my opinion, are Con Knipple and then A. Sanul. If you don't know who A. Sanul is, he's power forward at Georgia. He's about 6'10". Con Knipple, 6'7" shooting guard / small forward at Duke. I like both of those players for the Spurs. I think the Spurs, obviously Harrison Barnes he's not that old, but he's on the other side of 30. I think Con is somebody they need shooting. I think Con would be an amazing fit with Castle, Fox, and Wemby. I would like Con. And then I picked Newell because I think Newell next to Wemby, I like that. Newell can stretch out to the 3-point line. Yeah, and I like him next. I like that next to Wemby. I like Newell next to Wemby. I like that a lot. Contract situations. CP3, Bismack are free agents, and also a few others are. I didn't write down their names. Keldon Johnson, De'Aaron Fox, and Harrison Barnes are all extension eligible. Rookie/sophomore review. Castle, I mean, he's one of those dudes that I think is really going to benefit from being in the playoffs specifically. His shooting, he's still got to get his shooting, a lot better. He's still got to improve on his jump shot. But just the physicality, I think he's built for the playoffs, So I'm really excited whenever they get there. I'm excited to watch him play in the playoffs. And I just have liked what I've seen from Castle all year long. I could sit here and talk 30 minutes about what I've liked from Castle this year. But, yeah, I just want to keep it very short. Wemby was headed to win in Defensive Player of the Year. He was getting ready probably to be All-NBA as well this year. I just hope he's able to recover. I mean, I'm not going to sit up here and talk, because, again, I could spend 30 minutes talking about Wemby. Also, I have been on Wemby since he was 16. I've said that in other videos. I just want to state it again because I've got some, my subscribe base is a lot larger, getting more views. One of these days, I will show you guys my my feed, my history of likes and saved videos. I'll show you guys. I'll show you Wemby was like one of the very first videos. I've been following Wemby since he was 16, so very big fan of his. Next team is the Portland Trailblazers. To me, draft fits for them is Ace and Newell, Trey Johnson, and Con Knipple. I picked Newell because I believe I like Donovan Clingan, don't get me wrong, but Donovan Clingan got to lose 25 to 30 pounds in my opinion. I just think at that size, he's not going to be able to hold up. And then if the Blazers want to go small, I think Ace and Newell would be a better option. If they want to go small in the playoffs, Ace and Newell 6'10", he's very mobile, he can run the 5. But even if he had to run the 4, I like him next to Clingan as well. So that's why I put him. I put Trey Johnson, and Trey Johnson's an interesting one. I put Trey Johnson because, one, the Blazers need more. They need more three-point shooting, and they need more scoring. I love Shaedon Sharpe as a number 1 option. You can check out any of my videos where I've talked about Portland. You will see that I'm drooling over Shaedon Sharpe. Pause. But Trey Johnson, to me, is somebody that I would love to see. And he's long. Like, Trey Johnson can be your small forward. He's 6'6", and he has super long arms. I'm pretty sure his wingspan's over 7 foot. So if you had to run him at the 3, in today's NBA, he could be a 3, obviously. Obviously not ideal, a 6'6", a small forward, but it happens, around the NBA, it's like that, But I like Trey Johnson and with Portland, him and Shaedon Sharpe being those 20, either him or Shaedon being the 25-plus game scorer, or maybe he'll be the offspring to Shaedon's 25 to 30 points. Maybe Trey Johnson is that 20 to 25 points. I just like Trey Johnson in Portland. I really like that. And then last player is Con Knipple. I really wouldn't mind seeing Con Knipple. Again, Portland needs scoring. They need more shooting, specifically shooting, more so. I mean, scoring as well, but mainly shooting. That's why I put Con here. I think Con, when he gets to where he needs to be in the NBA, I think he could be a solid potential 3rd option on a team. Maybe a number 2, but I think he could be a solid 3rd. I love Con. I love Con's everything about him. Pause. Contract situation. Matisse Thybulle has a player option. Delano Banton is a free agent. Jabari Walker is a restricted free agent. Tamati Kamara, DeAndre Ayton, Robert Williams, and Anthony Simons, they're all extension eligible. If they don't get extended, Ayton, Simons, and Williams all only got 1 year left on their deal, so something's going to give in Portland. Rookie/sophomore review. Scoot, people have been so hard on Scoot. I was never hard on him. You can check out all my videos where I've talked about Portland. I just told people, just be patient. His free throw pursuit, his free throw shooting, his free throw percentage tells me his jumper is going to come along. His jumper doesn't look broken, at least in my opinion. Yes, he plays at a very fast pace, but I think obviously with repetition, he'll slow down, understand the speed of the NBA. He did improve on his jump shot. He did improve on his pace this year. I'm ready for Portland to start him, so hopefully they'll let go of Anthony Simons. If you want to hear me talk more about them, you can check out my Portland season preview and whatnot. I'm not going to sit up here and talk a bunch about Scoot right now. Tamati Kamara, all defensive performer. I don't know if he's going to make the all defensive team necessarily this year because of the Blazers record, but I expect him to make at least 1 to 3 defensive teams over his career. He's a great defender. And I just talked about him, Donovan Clingan, and he needs to lose 25 to 30 pounds, in my opinion. Like, he has to, and I hope he does. That's something I will mainly be paying attention to with him. You guys let me know down in the comment section below, what are your draft fits for these 3 teams? And what other things about these 3 teams are you guys going to be keeping your eyes out for? My next segment is a segment I like to call Games of the Week. Now, in Games of the Week, I'm giving you guys games with some type of significance, games that I'm looking forward to this week, or games that I really enjoyed this last week. So, like I said, we're towards the end of the NBA season, so I'm not going to talk about games that I've enjoyed watching. We're going to have a ton of those in the playoffs. This week, we're just going to talk about games that I'm looking forward to. We're going to talk about some of the games that are going on tonight, and we'll talk about some of the games that are going on Sunday, because there's quite a few games that have significance to them as well. So tonight, we got the Kings and Clippers. We got the Lakers and Rockets. We got, and I think the Rockets actually are sitting all their players, so that's going to be a wash game. So that game's, I guess, not relevant. Then we got the Grizzlies Nuggets. We got the Bucks in Detroit tonight and Sunday. That's going to determine, between Milwaukee and Detroit, that's going to determine who gets the 5th or the 6th seed in those two games. And then we got Warriors and Blazers. I did this game because the Blazers need to lose if they want to get back their draft lottery spot, being at number, I think they would be at number 9. So hopefully they lose tonight to the Warriors, and the Warriors need to win tonight anyways. So that's why I put that game down there. And then you got the Clippers Warriors Sunday, which could be a huge game for seeding. And then also Sunday you got the Rockets Nuggets. Now, you guys, and also I want to let you guys know why I got this brief time, that I'm trying to keep my episodes between 25 and 35 minutes. So I have a lot more stuff that I would like to say, but I'm just trying to respect you guys' time and also be mindful of my own time. So just keep that in mind as you're, watching my episodes. But yeah, obviously we got some amazing games coming up. Next week for the play-in. I don't know what those are going to be quite yet. And the next weekend we got the playoffs, so I'm really excited. But yeah, you guys let me know down in the comment section below, what games are you guys looking forward to this weekend. My last segment is a segment I like to call In the Lab. Now, in the Lab, I'm talking about today's NBA rookies, college, high school, or international basketball. Today, we're going to talk about some of our college prospects that, if you're just now checking out my podcast, I told everybody and told all you guys on here that I would give you guys 10 to 15 players that I would be just watching out for during the tournament, just to see how they perform during the tournament. Every week, ever since then, we've kind of just been checking on them as they've gotten eliminated. This week, we're going to check in on our last 5 players. And those 5 players, we're going to start off one with Con Knipple, 6'7", freshman at Duke. Con, during the NCAA tournament, averaged 15 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal, 2 personal fouls, and 1 turnover. His shooting splits, he shot 54% from the field. He shot 55.5% from 3 and 91% from the free throw line on 4.5 attempts. To me, Con is a top 12 pick. I think that's at least in my opinion. He has a very high basketball IQ. He's just a pure old school scorer in my opinion. He uses his body very well. And I think his passing is underrated, really out of the pick and roll. Another player is Isaiah Evans. He's 6'6", freshman at Duke as well. Isaiah Evans, in my opinion, we'll see if he ends up coming out or if he ends up going to the transfer portal or if he comes back to Duke. Honestly, I'm going to be real. I'll be surprised if he comes back to Duke because I do believe John Shire misused him throughout this whole year. And also he put him in the doghouse, and I felt that we could have used him. I'm a Duke fan, so that's why I keep saying we. But I feel like we could have used him during that Houston game. But if he does decide to come out, I think Isaiah Evans can be a very, very late first-round pick. I'm talking like 25 to 32. I think I can see his range. Or 25 to 30 is where I range. It's 32. I'm tripping. It's 25 to 30. I could see him in that range or going in the early second round. He's a sniper. Great shooter, man. He just shoots, and that's what's valued in today's NBA. But yeah, and then another player is Kaman Malawach, 7'2", freshman at Duke. He averaged during the tournament, he averaged 10 points, 5 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 blocks, 2.5 personal fouls, 1 turnover. He shot 84% from the field on 5 attempts. He only took 1 3 the whole tournament, but he made it. He shot 90% from the free throw line on 2 attempts. To me, Kaman is the best defensive big man in this draft. I'm not big. I don't really like his rebounding. I don't think he's that good of a rebounder for somebody of his athletic ilk and of his size and his length. But I do believe his physical tools, his length, his athleticism, his touch, he's probably going to go top 10. I think that's probably what's going to happen. Another player is Tahad Pettiford, 6'1", freshman Auburn. During the tournament, he averaged 15 points, 3 rebounds, 3.5 assists, a half a steal, 2 personal fouls, 2 turnovers. He shot 44% from the field, 31% from 3, 83% from the free throw line on 5 attempts. To me, he's a late first rounder, early second rounder. But I personally would like to see him come back to college for one more year. We'll see what he ends up doing. Last player is Thomas Ha. He's 6'9", sophomore, Florida. He averaged 12 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 block, 1 steal, 2 personal fouls, 1 turnover. He shot 44% from the field, 26% from 3, 73% from the free throw line on 5.5 attempts. I would like to see him come back for a junior year. If he does come out, I can see a team taking a flyer on him in the late first or a second round pick. But yeah, those are the 5 players. Also want to let you guys know that tomorrow I will be attending the Nike Hoop Summit in Portland. It's basically the USA versus the world. There's a lot of really good prospects on the world team that I'm looking forward to watching too. But then, of course, I'm looking forward to watching all these high schoolers on the USA team. I'll do you guys a service again. I'll leave the teams up in the corner for you guys if you've missed those in some of the other episodes where I've showed these teams. But yeah, I'll be at that game tomorrow. But then also my March Madness bracket was pretty good. If you look over in the corner, I'll probably leave a picture up in the corner of what my final bracket was, my percentage. I did really well. Obviously, yeah, the 4 number 1 seeds end up going to the Final Four. But last year, I didn't pick all 4 number 1 seeds. I did pick UConn to play Purdue because I feel like those were the 2 best teams. But this year, I just felt like the 4 number 1 seeds were the 4 best teams. That's why I picked them. I wasn't trying to have fun with the bracket. No, you're trying to predict the best bracket, So that's why I took those 4 teams because I felt like all season long, those were the 4 best teams in my opinion. But anyways, I want to let you guys know, and I want to thank you guys. Thank you for checking out my podcast. And PJ is out.